Hello and welcome into this week's NASCAR Cup Series Rewind show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, would you do me a favor, go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell for notifications too while you're down there so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. We've been growing a lot lately and I appreciate that. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Today, we are, of course, as you've seen in the title, we're talking about the 23rd Annual Pennzoil 400 presented by Jiffy Lube. 267 laps, 400.5 miles around the mile-and-a-half Las Vegas Motor Speedway in Las Vegas, Nevada. Overall, I'd say this was a pretty good race. For Vegas standards, I think this was a pretty good race. We haven't seen a lot of good races at Vegas in recent years. Was it a perfect race? No. Was it a good race though? Yeah, I think it was. It was a pretty entertaining race. For a race that at a track that hasn't produced very good racing in recent years, I'd say we got a pretty good product today. We got a late race caution that set up a good run to the checkered flag over the last couple laps. We had a bit of confusion as to whether the race was actually over. We were going to overtime, but the finish was a bit spoiled, and we'll get to that in a moment. It wasn't quite the driver we thought was going to win with a couple laps left to go because pit strategy on that last caution was really kind of crazy. 9 caution flags in this race for a total of 37 laps. First one came very early, lap number 1, as Daniel Suarez stalled on the front stretch. Not a good start to the season for Suarez, missing the Daytona 500, and now mechanical issues on lap 1 here at Vegas. Competition caution lap 25 for just checking tire wear from the rain yesterday. Stage 1 concluded at lap number 80 with Chase Elliott taking the Stage 1 victory. Stage 2 concluded at lap 160. Chase Elliott also took Stage 2. Then we started getting the incidents in Stage 3. Lap 169, the 38 of John Hunter Nemechek spun in turn 2. Lap 177, 19 of Martin Truex wrecks in turn 4. Lap 222, Chase Elliott spins in turn 1 with a flat tire. Lap 263, this is what set up the couple lap dash to the finish. Wasn't officially overtime as we were still only going to the scheduled distance. But Ross Chastain filling in for Ryan Newman this week in the 6 car. He spins on the backstretch, which was really disappointing because Chastain was having a pretty good day, running inside the top 15. Unfortunately, not able to really finish that off. Final caution came, final lap on lap 267 to end the race as we had a big incident on the front stretch as we took the white flag involving William Byron, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Busch, and John Hunter Nemechek. 25 lead changes among 7 drivers in this race. Kevin Harvick led the most laps at 92. Chase Elliott led a good portion of the race as well. He led 70 laps. 54 laps went to Joey Logano. 30 laps were led by Ricky Stenhouse. Good start to the season here for Ricky Stenhouse. Started on the pole in Daytona and led a lot of laps there. Now leading a bunch of laps here in Vegas. 19 laps were led by Ryan Blaney, who had a very fast car today. And 1 lap apiece went to Austin Dillon and Martin Truex. All right, so let's get on to your results. We had a very hard-fought battle going down the stretch to the checkered flag. Ryan Blaney had taken the lead late. Alex Bowman was tracking him down. Those are 2 names that I think in recent years we've not really become accustomed to talking about in the battle for the win, but it definitely was a breath of fresh air to see these 2 battling for the win. I think Bowman would have caught Blaney by the end of the race had the last caution not come out. The question would have been, could he catch Blaney, though? But that all went out the window when we had the caution for the Ross Chastain spin. These 2 pitted along with a lot of the other lead lap cars. I think 7 cars stayed out on this caution, including Joey Logano, Ricky Stenhouse, Matt DiBenedetto, cars like that, who lined up out front. Logano actually was just a miscommunication. His crew chief, Paul Wolfe, now this year, who had been Brad Keselowski's crew chief, had told him, if everybody else pits, you come down pit road too. Logano apparently didn't hear him correctly and stayed out on the track, which turned out to be the winning move. Joey Logano takes home the victory in the Pennzoil 400, his second year in a row winning this race. And like we said, not really who you were looking at as the race winner before that final caution. He had a solid third-place car at the end of this race, but definitely was not as fast as Blaney or Bowman, who really were the two that were going to end up battling for this win. Unfortunately, both of them got mired back in the pack. As you see here, neither one of them even in the top 10. Big, good runs here for Matt DiBenedetto in the second position. I think this is a real good omen for what we're going to see out of that 21 car this season. Really good start to the season for him, as well as Ricky Stenhouse. We talked about him leading 30 laps today. I thought for a little bit there that he was going to be able to come home with the victory in this one. Had to settle for a third-place finish, but definitely, if you look at where Stenhouse has been the last few years in the 17 car, if you look at where these JTG Doherty cars have been in the past few years, I'd say a third-place run and a pole position in the Daytona 500 is a magnificent way to start the season, both for Ricky and for that 47 car. Hopefully they can keep the momentum going, because this has been a really good start for that team. Also, good runs here in the top 5, both for Austin Dillon in 4th and Jimmy Johnson there in 5th, who was fast all weekend. He's another one I think we're looking at this year is having a rebound season in his final season. You know what? As strong as he's been to start off this season, he may not be done winning races yet, and who knows? I mean, he's got a lot of stiff competition for sure, but there's nothing saying he can't make it to Homestead if he continues to run like this. But we've got a long season ahead of us, and it's probably way too early to be talking about that. But again, though, really good start to the season for him. Great finish for Bubba Wallace as well there in the 6th position. Really good run for that team. And the rest of your top 10, Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Larson, and a top 10 run for Ty Dillon in the 13 car. 11th through 20th, we see Ryan Blaney and Alex Bowman down here, the two that probably should have battled this out for the win. They ended up 11th and 13th. Kyle Busch caught up in that last lap incident. He came home in 15th position. Denny Hamlin, your Daytona 500 winner, there in 17th. 21st through 30th, William Byron, he was also caught up in that last lap wreck. He ended up 22nd, not indicative of the day he had. 6th in the first stage, 4th in the second stage, and definitely had a very solid top 5 car at the end of the race. Fortunately got put back in the pack with the pit stops there on that last caution, and then caught up in this. Not the finish to the day that he deserved by any means. Chase Elliott, one of the fastest cars on the day, obviously having won both stages. Unfortunately, with that flat tire, never was able to recover from it, and 26th would be where Chase Elliott would land. Ross Chastain, his first run in that 6th car, filling in for Ryan Newman, came home in 27th after his late spin. And Daniel Suarez was still running at the end of the race. They got the issues figured out there on lap 1, but unfortunately ended the race 4 laps down there in the 30th position. Final page, 31st through 38th. Christopher Bell went for a ride at one point in the race. Was still running at the end, but 10 laps down there in the 33rd position. Then we see Michael McDowell, Ryan Preece down here as well, both with issues at different points in the day. So that's your results from the Pennzoil 400. Let's head over to the Media Center. We will see what Joey Logano and his team had to say after their first win of the season.
I don't think so. You know, we talked about the scenario, whether it's at the end of a stage or end of the race. At some point, you know, if it comes down to can we get clean air? You know, and at what point are we comfortable staying out? You know, so Paul came over the radio and said, "Stick to the plan." I said, "Okay, I stick to the plan." That was it. So. You know, ultimately it was a good call, obviously, and got us in position to have a good restart. I had a good push with Ricky behind me, and had a good block on the 24 once I got the push. You know, and at that point, once you get that clean air, you're in good shape. If I didn't have a good restart and got swallowed up by the field, I'd been, you know, had the backup lights on pretty quick. But you know, the call and then the execution to go together is what we need to do.
I don't know if it makes it any easier. It's pretty hard at this level to win races. So put a lot of pressure on myself. Obviously, it's good to have the confidence in the driver. He believes in his team and what we can do. Obviously, we've both been successful prior to this year, and we have certain things that's helped us get to where we're at, things that have worked for us in the past. So kind of like call it your comfort zone, if you will. But what we've really tried to do in the off season is communicate a lot and try to understand, kind of the strengths and weaknesses of each of our programs in the past maybe, and just try to mesh it all together and just make ourselves stronger and win more races than we have with our teams prior. And obviously it's early. This was kind of the first test. I mean, obviously Speed Weeks is kind of its own deal. We had good cars, and I thought it all went fairly smooth. Obviously, we didn't get the results we were hoping for, but I knew coming out on the West Coast swing was really going to be where we're going to learn and try to understand what we need to do. I thought practice went well on Friday. Wasn't quite as pleased, obviously, with how the car was in the race. I thought we'd be a little stronger. We fought through it all day. Obviously, Joey did a great job keeping us up front, keeping our track position, and obviously in these races, that's what it comes down to. If you keep yourself in the top 5, you've put yourself in position, depending on what happens, how it plays out. I've lost plenty of them being the best car, and so it just kind of all goes in full circle. And he drove a great race, and we kind of had a plan, like he said, coming into the race. Like him, I try to communicate with him thoughts and get his ideas, and then kind of have a plan. Sometimes you got to change and adapt, but he stuck to what we had talked about, and obviously it paid off.
All right, so let's take a quick look at your playoff grid following this race. Obviously, I know we're 2 races into the season. It doesn't matter much at this point, but we'll take a quick look at it anyway, as it's kind of starting to take shape here. 2 races into the season, drivers more starting to filter into where they should be in the points, rather than just all combobulated after Daytona. Of course, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, your 2 winners thus far this season, locked into the playoffs thus far. A few surprises, obviously, here in playoff positions so far. Definitely, I think, would be Ricky Stenhouse up there in a playoff position, as well as maybe a little surprising to see Austin Dillon and Chris Buescher as high as they are. Matt DiBenedetto currently sits in the 10th position. Jimmy Johnson in 11th. Bubba Wallace 12th after 2 races. Corey LaJoie even in a playoff position at the moment. They're in the 15th position. But we see drivers out here just outside the cutoff line starting to sneak their way closer back into playoff positions that maybe they deserve. Eric Almirola there in 17th. Brad Keselowski in 19th. Eric Jones 20th. Not quite on the page, but definitely, I think, are definitely going to be playoff contenders this year. William Byron in 21st. Kyle Busch still mired back here in 27th after 2 lackluster weekends, or at least lackluster finishes for him. And then Kurt Busch back here sitting in the 30th position. He's got some work to do, as well as Christopher Bell back here, currently 31st in points. So few drivers not off to the best start of the season. Both the Busch brothers back here definitely have a hole to dig out of, as well as Christopher Bell to start the season. But that is your playoff grid following the Pennzoil 400, the second race of the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series season. And I believe that'll do it for this particular NASCAR Cup Series Rewind. Of course, we had a ARCA Rewind go up late Thursday night. That was a late night, with that race not getting started till 11 p.m. Eastern. I was up for a while doing that rewind show. I'm glad to see that we had so much support on that episode. That really made me happy. Made me feel like all that hard work paid off. And then, of course, a winner interview with Sam Mayer from that race. That went up earlier today, so if you haven't seen that yet, go check that out. Great conversation with him, as always. Really great kid and a very, very talented driver. He's 2 for 2 so far this season in his ARCA starts, so definitely one to keep your eye on. Next guaranteed video will be diecast review on Thursday. That'll be Ross Chastain's Gateway Truck winner from this past season. That's a cool one, so definitely tune in for that. And then, I don't want to promise anything, but there might be a live stream tomorrow on Monday. So maybe tune in for that sometime in the evening. I don't want to give a time yet, and I don't want to promise it yet, because things still may come up that may not let me do it, but might be one tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. Could be some fun stuff coming for you tomorrow on Monday as well. And then, of course, Xfinity and Cup back in action next week in California. Not 100% sure if we'll have rewind shows for those, but if we can, we will make it happen for you. So, if you haven't done it already, you need to go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. While you're down there, why don't you hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. But at that, this has been the NASCAR Cup Series Rewind Show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.